Right. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the Personnel Subcommittee on the Nevada Commission on Ethics meeting. I'd like to open the meeting with roll call. Chair Wallen here. Vice Chair Dufferin
here.
Commissioner Oscarson is excused. Staff Executive Director Armstrong
Here.
Associate Counsel Bassett here. Sorry. Investigator Terry.
Here.
Executive Assistant Pedroza here. And Deputy Attorney General St. Jules here. At this time, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item, item 2, public comment. Executive Director Armstrong, are there any members of the public present and have you received any emails?
No.
All right. Executive Director Assistant Pedroza.
We have no members of the public on Zoom.
All right, thank you. Item 3, approval of the minutes of April 19th, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item is item 4, interviewing and consideration of candidates for the Commission Council position. And what we're going to do amongst the commissioners, since Commissioner Oscarson is not here, we have divided his questions up between myself and Vice Chair Dufferin. And we will use the same questions that we used on our April 19th, 2023 Personnel Subcommittee meeting. I would like to ask Randy Jensen. Please come forward. Good morning. Thank you very much. That's my next thing. Oh, my papers. Had lots of meetings here today, lots of papers and stuff. So, Ms. Jensen, thank you so much for coming in today. We really do appreciate your time and having an interest in wanting to serve on our commission. So, thank you. I just want you to know that there will be 2 sets of interviews. Okay, the subcommittee will be interviewing you today, and then we will select the applicants who should receive a second interview. And if we do, that will be before the full commission. And that meeting, we're going to have a special meeting that will be noticed on May 30th, 2023. Okay. Okay. So before we start with the questions, can you please give us a short introduction of yourself and let us know what prompted your interest in the commission? Certainly. And why you want to work here.
Okay, 3 in 1. I am originally from Nevada, 5th generation. I grew up in Douglas County, went to schools there. And then I went on, much to the chagrin of my Northern Nevada family, to UNLV to attend college, and then opened up the law school there right when I was graduating and was in the first charter class of Boyd Law School, where I graduated in 2001. When I was in college, I rodeoed for UNLV, walking onto the rodeo team. And then when I was in law school, I served in various boards, with the student body, vice president, various other things. Then I went on from law school to take a position with the Honorable Archie Blake in Lyon County, serving as a law clerk. After that, I followed my passion. My bachelor's degree is actually in criminal justice. Originally wanted to be a homicide investigator. You can say I went into a different path. I ended up going into criminal justice and prosecution. So I took a position with the Churchill County District Attorney's Office and served as a prosecutor there. And then was offered a position a little bit closer to Fernley in Lyon County and ended up serving as a prosecutor there as well. In my time in Churchill County, I did everything from murder to misdemeanors, and same with the Lyon County District Attorney's Office as well. And then when I was offered the position to be the Fernley City Attorney, which I have been for the last 13 years.
Okay.
I decided to have an interest in ethics. It's a little bit funny because I had approached one of your staff members and said, gosh, if anything ever comes open, Ethics, would you please let me know? And they did. As you know, as the subcommittee, I originally had applied and then withdrew my application. I'm a very loyal person, so I wasn't sure if I really wanted to leave the position where I was at. I care about my community. After doing some soul searching, I decided that I have served the community I live in for the last 20 plus years. I have been the prosecutor, I've been the city attorney, and I really wanted to do more with my career and serve at a statewide level. And I believe that this is an opportunity for me to be able to do that here at the Ethics Commission. I believe that the mission of the commission, and it's even the first statement of the NRS, is to, this is a position of public trust, and that it is our job to make sure that those ethics are upheld. There isn't anything more that aligns with what I believe as a lawyer. In my evaluations as the city attorney, I have always received a perfect score in ethics and often get teased about it at work for my diligence in that field. So that's my reason for showing interest in this position here.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, because this is a public meeting, okay, the next several questions will relate to the job you had before, or it can be with your current job if you want, all right? Just because it's a public meeting,
Yes,
you can.
I anticipated as much.
All right, okay, good. So you can make it from a job from one you don't have now or whatever,
Okay.
or the current one. So how would you change things at your previous job?
I think one of the most important things that I feel was one of my duties of that position was to try to ensure compliance with the various laws, but to also help my client find a path to get there. Sometimes the path they're looking for isn't the right path, but there may be a different path that can still accomplish their goals. And one of the changes that I wanted to make at the city of Fernley when I started was, after reviewing a lot of the statutes, I believed that there needed to be constitutional compliance with the form of government and the separation of powers. And when I was looking through things, we had some hiccups to go through. It took me 13 years, 7 tries in front of different council members, and we finally are in constitutional compliance with our form of government. So that was one of the things that I wanted to change and worked on. I think we are a city who is growing, and it's exciting to see us go from a smaller jurisdiction to kind of a growing municipality. And I think changing and making sure that we have the right policies and procedures in place and documents and forms to be able to meet the taxpayers' expectations of when they want things turned around, to be able to get them successful results so that there can be good economic development in our region as well as within our city. So I try to work with the team to try to improve our processes to do so.
Can you tell me about a failure in your last job?
So certainly, I think to some extent, I alluded to one where it took a number of years to get something through. But I think one of the failures that's very difficult for me is something that I had to learn as a supervisor. When you're working with a team, I was originally an autocratic communication style where I believe these were the rules and they should be followed. And I think that comes from a prosecutorial background where, and that's why prosecution fits so well with me. You learn as you grow, and I've taken numerous communication classes, that a team is very important, and learning to bring out, when you work with that team, what are they good at? How can you enhance their strengths? And what are their weaknesses? And how can you bring others in to bring that to a better place? Or how can you provide the training they need to try to be better? Communication is important. And we had a team group where at one point in the 13 years, we all tested in a different communication style. And I think one of the things that I learned was to sit down and literally study the communication styles before I would meet with each different department within the city and learn how I can communicate in a way with them that it makes it effective, makes them want to hear what we have to say, and helps them reach what they're trying to do while still meeting legal compliance.
Have you ever done something for someone and did not expect to get anything in return? And can you give us an example?
I think that should be the point of most things that we do, right? That is the goal. One of the things that you can see that's in the resume is that you hear a lot of times on social media, gosh, I wish they would teach the kids something that would be valuable in school. Why don't they teach them how to do their taxes? Why don't they teach them how to change a tire? Why don't they teach them how to apply for a job? So I decided that obviously must be my calling. And so I went to the school, worked with a civics professor, and we came up with what we called Lincoln Life lessons. Obviously, my favorite president is Lincoln. And so we decided to put together a program where the high school students were taught how to interview, how to do resumes, how to do their taxes, how to change a tire, how to do all the basic life skills that we felt. And it was a little bit, just the opinion of the civics teacher and I on what things should be brought forward, but it was approved by the school board. And we taught it for an entire year, bringing in various guest speakers. I never expected anything in return. And all I hope was, well, that's not true. I hoped that the kids would get something from it and it would make them more successful in their future endeavors.
So if I were to ask 3 friends to tell me something about you, what would they say?
I think they would tell you that I am a very friendly, open person, very passionate about things that I love and that I do, and that I'm very ethical. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here, but like I said, this is why I applied. These are the things that are important to me. I am very personable in that I try to get along with everybody that we work with, and everybody will tell you I always have a smile on my face, and I'm very friendly to the people that I work with. When it comes to passions, I'm passionate about multiple things. I'm passionate about my faith, my family, my community, and horses. Though that probably more qualifies as an addiction than, a passion. But when I do something, I want to do it right. And my work product is important to me. So being able to do something well and do it right is what is important. And they'll tell you that I'm a very loyal person, which is again, what I referred to earlier. So that's something that's also.
All right. Thank you. Now, would you characterize yourself as someone who gets ahead of deadlines or someone whose work is driven by deadlines?
I think I am someone who definitely gets ahead of deadlines, maybe almost to, I appreciate being very organized, having things on calendars, knowing when my due dates are, knowing when to get things done. I think at the city where I'm at now, there is a struggle with being understaffed. And a lot of expectations of what work needs to be done. And so for me, being organized, and I filled in as HR, I filled in as helping with city manager duties. I fill in wherever we have a gap to try to help when I can. And being able to be on top of those priorities, that's probably something I should refer back to in the previous question. They will tell you I'm very organized. I like things to be color coordinated, my calendar to provide reminders, my due dates to be sorted in my Microsoft to do by task and due date. And that's just one of my strengths, possibly because one of my.
Yeah.
So on that note, so as the city attorney of Fernley, describe like how many people work under you, or what's the office, like how many people are in your office and how many people are helping you do your job?
Certainly, we're huge. There's 4 of us.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, we have when I first started, I was the office. I ran everything myself, filing all court documents and completely without any assistance. We grew, we're able to hire a legal secretary. And then eventually the prosecution rose from about 200 cases to 750 a year. At that point, I begged for assistance and we hired a deputy city attorney. That deputy city attorney then worked with me to try to serve the community, both of us prosecuting, both of us doing the municipal civil sides. And then we actually were able to get a part-time person for that attorney to try to assist. When Marcy's laws passed, we had then went forward again. Thankfully, we already had a victim program in place that I had initiated a few years before, but we needed someone to kind of spend even more time dedicated to victim notification. So they gave it into a full-time position under the understanding that I would also take on the contract with the fire department to serve as their attorney. So I now serve as multiple boards and being their legal counsel. And we, the 4 of us now have split duties off to where I do all civil and the deputy does all criminal. And we cross-train each other to be able to cover.
Well, I mean, the Ethics Commission, it's a staff of 6, so you know how to work in a small office. Everybody wears a lot of different hats.
Yes.
Which is good. So my next question is, do you prefer working collaboratively or independently?
I prefer working collaboratively. I'm very much a team person, much to the annoying of my husband. I want everybody to do everything together. I enjoy brainstorming with other people to come up with different ideas. Internally, when I started, there were no policies and procedures that we refer to as PMPs. As a team, we would sit together, and instead of me, I created all the ones originally, and then every Wednesday I have everybody sit down and we pick one. And I tell them, okay, what do you think could change? And I think that's important, getting it from the people who are doing the day-to-day responsibilities, and they have all great input. And so for me, teamwork literally makes my heart happy.
Vice Chair Dufferin, I'll let you ask your questions and then we'll.
You're done already?
Yeah. And then we'll split up Commissioner Oscarson's questions.
All right, so I've got 6 questions of my own here. First question is, have you read the commission's mission and guiding principles and the NRS and NAC relating to the commission? And if so, in what ways do you believe you could assist the commission in ensuring its objectivity, independence, and impartiality are beyond reproach? Kind of a 2-part question. Sorry
It is.
about that.
It's okay. I might ask you to repeat it if I need to, but I have read through the mission statement on your website. The website is very well designed to be able to navigate that pretty easily. And I appreciated the statements of the intents, and there were a number of them, 10 or so, that went over what your mission is. I also have read through most of the statutes, and in my office, obviously deal with most of the statutes on a regular basis. I've not gone through the NACs. We have not utilized those in very many occasions. I think one of the things, and I have also listened to some commission meetings, I believe that one of the goals of the commission is to update the manual. And I believe that that's an excellent goal, and I would look forward to working with that to assist. And believe it or not, we print it out. And every time we have an election, I have a little, if you want to not sleep at night, here's the Ethics Commission, here's the open meeting law, here's the various things you have to sign. And then we do training, as well as the training that's provided by the commission that comes out. And so I think if I could in any way assist to help with those kind of goals, I think the statutes are pretty well written, though I appreciate every bill that's gone forward to modify and clarify the issues that come forward. There's always something that you don't anticipate when you write a statute, and so it can always be modified and upgraded. And I actually really feel a close alignment with the positions and the statutes, and so there isn't a whole lot I would change with the way that it's written currently.
Just a follow-up to that question. So looking at the job description for this position, and as you read through that, and then thinking about that in terms of what you do currently at Fernley, how did you typically when I do that, I'll like, I'm in the new job and I'm thinking, oh, wow, this is a lot different, or this is a lot the same. So how did you feel when you like looked at when you thought about that, when you looked at the current job that we're recruiting for versus what you do today? You feel like you can mesh those well together?
Yes, I read through the job description. There were a couple of duties that I did not know were of the commission council, so I was glad that I had read through that. One of the things I think does align is, which was surprising to me, is how much of those duties are literally what I'm doing in my current position. Hey, I'm sorry, sir, you can't go to that event because they paid for the table. And this is why, this is the goal, this is, what the statutes say. I know that there are advisory opinions that are to be given, and I can tell you in my position, I utilized that on more than one occasion with whether it was Karen or Yvonne or, the different positions. And that's invaluable when you're in the trenches. I think that's something that I bring to the table as experience that you may be looking for. I know you're going to have other attorneys applying, and they're going to bring in their strengths. One of mine is actually having done the work, having served various boards and having to be their advisor when it comes to the ethical rules. And it's not just an advisor to, say, a city council or a fire board. I've also been the advisor to the 75 employees that get free nachos at the Mexican restaurant, right? And hey, let's not do that. And, this is why. And so I think that day-to-day experience of having to navigate the ethical statutes in NRS 278A, or 281A, it's a lot to try to do the day-to-day while you're doing everything else. But it is the best part of being able to help people.
Sure.
And so I think the duties of the commission council do align with what I'm doing, and there are going to be some differences, of course.
Sure. So that leads me directly into my next question, and I think you semi-answered it. Do you have any experience in preparing or presenting meeting materials for approval at a public meeting? And if so, please describe.
In the large office that we're in, we get to do all the duties. So we all prepare our own agenda reports, including all drafting of all ordinances. I do not have support staff do that. I usually utilize them for the strengths that they present. And having done it for 13 years, I manage it, and I don't want to load them with the additional work that I can do myself. I present all of those at council myself, and also prepare any additional packets. In my current position, they put it into an agenda system, and I review every agenda report that goes in front of the council to make sure that it's in legal compliance and to provide any recommendations for additional documentation or bidding requirements that need to be met. So I also prepare my own court documents when I'm doing prosecutions, including motions to dismiss, oppositions to motion to dismiss. We've done some small claims work recently, and I prepare my own documents for those as well. I do have the assistance on that one with one of my paralegals, who's amazing. So we do most of it ourselves, really, in the current position.
Have you ever provided legal advice to an agency or a private business on their litigation matters and or daily operations? So tell us about it.
Yes, every council meeting, we have a legal brief at 4 p.m. where we go over all pending litigation. I handle all litigation unless it is defense litigation that is covered by our full pack insurance. We advise them on what to do on all matters. I even had one last night. So we give advice on multiple different types of litigation, everything from HR type lawsuits to injunctive relief to development lawsuits that are brought from the city. We really hit a wide variety of a lot of different interests in litigation.
What steps do you take before making a decision on how to solve a problem and why? Why do you go through those steps? So what steps, this is totally different now. Reset. What steps do you take before making a decision on how to solve a problem and why?
For me, as I indicated earlier, I'm a team player. So it's figuring out the motivations of every person involved and what's the right thing to do and how do I get the people to do that are involved. It is also what are the risks for my client and how can we address those to minimize those risks if at all possible. And how can I give them advice that makes it not so overly burdensome that they can't get done what they need to do. And so it's navigating those waters. I'm a little bit different than other city attorneys. I'm appointed rather than elected. And so there's a little bit of a joke that it's a 2-week job, right? You work for 19 different council members, 5 different city managers, 3 different mayors over time, and you have to learn to navigate those personalities to accomplish the goals. And being able to also keep in mind the public relations aspect of the city at all times and how you can present that we are the most professional city attorney's office in the state. That's our goal. That's
Sure.
who we are.
No, it's a good goal. Have you ever argued before a district court or Nevada's Supreme Court on an appellate matter?
I have never argued in front of the Supreme Court on any of the appellate matters. I have
District
done
court?
district court, yes, because obviously I've done jury trials. So I've done a extensive trial litigation in criminal matters, not a lot of criminal or civil litigation in front of the district courts. Usually that's handled by our full pack insurance.
Okay. Based on your understanding of this position, what is more important? The ability to work as an independent contributor or as a team member?
As a team member, I know it's going to sound a little bit redundant, but I have met some of your staff and I enjoy all my interactions with them. I think being a team member is important. They have a pretty rough job. Holding public officials accountable is a little bit of a not fun sometimes position, but the staff that is here is very kind and very open, and I have enjoyed being able to meet with them. I think when it comes to the teamwork, for me, it's the biggest thing of education for our public on what the ethics laws are, as well as accountability for what the ethics laws are, especially in today's society when there's a distrust for government in various areas. And this commission could be alive at a more important time in trying to protect those rights. And what I've seen from the current staff you have is the complete dedication to that goal and that desire to try to do both and balance those interests.
Thank you. Those are my 6 questions, and now we have Commissioner Oscarson's question that we're going to divvy up. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first and then you
Okay.
come back.
Madam Chair, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Dunbar. I will say this, our commission, we've got a great batch of commissioners. And we're human, we're not stodgy. And, so.
I have to say that was appealing, and listening to the camaraderie was it's very exciting to hear.
Commissioner Oscarson was here.
Things would go very different.
Yes.
God bless him.
So, how would you handle 2 commissioners disagreeing on the position of the commission, disagreeing on the position the commission should take on a matter?
I think that's what I've been doing for 13 years. You have council members that rarely agree. That is literally what I deal with every day. And a lot of times they want to shoot the messenger, right? That is unfortunately sometimes the role of the attorney. So I think it's being able to try to understand what why are they opposed to that position, and why is the other person in favor of that position, and how can you help to bring them together to some extent. You serve the role of almost an arbitrator, trying to help people to see the different sides. And sometimes, on a rare occasion, it just comes down to, these are your risks, this is the law, and it's complete your decision to make. I'm going to give you as much of an informed decision as I can and hope that you do the right thing.
Okay, so you spend time educating them, talking to them, and understanding both sides of it.
Yes, I have meetings monthly with each of my council members, and try to help them work through their questions and answers, and help them navigate what it's like to be a government official, especially in small towns. And where we're at, it's a little bit smaller, and the ethics matters, I feel, and I've never served large boards, so I can't give you advice to that. But they come up a lot because so-and-so knows so-and-so, and this person has a pecuniary interest with this issue, and how do you navigate those waters? And it's not just council members that you have to navigate through when there's conflict, it's internal staff. And they don't always agree on what they're going to do and how they're going to get through things. And so it's definitely something that over 13 years, you get a lot better at over time. And I hope that's something that I bring to the table that interests you.
What is your protocol for customer service, including returning phone calls and emails?
I'm a little bit strict about that. You answer the call within 2 rings. We call you back within 24 hours regardless. Emails has not been as successful just due to the short staffing that we have currently. I would love to get back to everybody immediately, but I now have a new system that's working great. So on average, I would say I receive over 110 emails a day, and I respond to all of them as quickly as possible. I think making people wait is, I told you, that's one of the things I get concerned about in my current position, is meeting taxpayer expectations. How can I work faster and more diligent to make sure that I get these things done in the time that they need? At all times, our office has over 200 civil projects on our plate and the 700 criminal cases. So we have to prioritize and obviously work on what's a priority. But for me, customer service is key. We actually do 360-degree of customer service surveys to determine how we're doing, and we always score off the charts on those for customer service. And granted, there's a little bit of an element to that in that we're dealing with defendants, and I believe even the defendants deserve the utmost respect. We're at the counter trying to get the information that they need. They're a person who's in front of you trying to make a decision, and like I tell my staffs, you're going to have about a 25% of the people in front of you have made a one-time mistake and they'll never do it again. 25% of the people did it intentionally, and you have to create a deterrence. And the other 50% often just don't know how to navigate the waters. And so it is our job to provide service to all 100% of those people at the counter, including attorneys on the opposing side. We do not disparage, we do not discuss anything negative about other people in our office. And that is hence the goal of being the most professional city attorney's office. We kind of joke about it, but we really do strive for it and try to set goals to meet that. And being a good customer service is one of our most important goals.
The next question, the position of commission counsel is a salaried position versus an hourly job, which you understand. And do you understand the legislative session is 120 days of dedicated time, often including weekends? Will you commit the time needed to assist the commission throughout the legislative session?
Yes, I think one of the benefits of my current position was being able to be close to family, you know, upon emergency, and not in a disparaging way, but my children are older and have, as teenagers, want less and less to do with me, which you have to get used to as a mom. But you are able to then be able to dedicate a little bit more to your position that you work. And I know my mom used to work for the legislature, so I'm aware of what the dedication it takes and the time that has to go into it, especially with the last minute hearings and bills and how quickly they can move with short notice.
Okay. Right. Yes.
Three more questions for you. What have you done in the past to prevent a situation from becoming too stressful for you or your colleagues to handle?
That's one to think about for a moment. I think one of the important things for me is I am the filter, I am the gateway between staff and the council and my staff. It is my department, and I try to make sure that whatever problems come up, that I can help work, not necessarily to protect them because they're strong individuals that don't need my protection, but it is my job to try to help navigate that. They get to do their job and I'll handle the rest. And I think one of the things for me is stress is obviously a factor for all of us. And I think seems to be ramped up lately for a lot of people. Being able to have work-life balance is important to me. So I still put my family, as I told you, as one of my priorities. As I indicated earlier, the barrel racing passion that I have is another way that I relieve stress and try to do it that way. But when it comes to the office, sometimes it's removing the emotion from the situation and analyzing the facts that are in front of you to determine the viable outcome, and reminding my staff that it's usually not personal. There's just something in the background that we're not seeing yet.
Have you ever held a position where you could not ask for guidance from other persons in your workplace, and how did you handle this challenge, if so?
Yes. I think that was the biggest shock taking the current position I have. When you're a district attorney and you're deputy, there's always somebody above you to go ask about a case. My first position, you didn't do anything without the boss's approval. My second position as a prosecutor, they weren't necessarily knowing what you were doing at any given time. So, you know, it was a good transition. And then in this position, there is no one for me to ask. Sometimes, like I said, I would reach out to the commission for some guidance, or the state bar, even for various guidance on things. But for the most part, this is a position where you fly solo. There are, with the exception of the deputy that works with me, there are no other professional attorneys in the office to ask for assistance. I've been very blessed at the city of Reno. There is, you know, when we go to these civil government attorney conferences, you make a lot of connections, and there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'll help you. And they have been wonderful as mentors and guidance, but I try not to abuse that privilege and use it as infrequently as possible. One of my long-term goals was to create a Nevada Municipal Lawyers Association, since we're one of the few states that doesn't have one, to create that camaraderie and group effort to help each other get through some of the newer complicated tasks that seem to hit us all at the same time.
What if I, as a commissioner, this is similar to a question we had earlier. What if I, as a commissioner, had a question? How would you handle responding to an individual question from a commissioner? Do you think that legal counsel should provide the other commissioners with the same information?
That's an interesting dynamic. The current position, and I'm sorry to keep referencing, but it's a 13-year experience to refer to. There were no rules of decorum or procedure when we started. And so I created one that was a modified Robert's rules as well as decorum. And that assisted in that type of situation. You're always going to have someone come to you and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And if you're going to provide information, I always would tell them, if I'm going to provide this to you, I'm going to provide it to everybody. And it helps because you're giving consistent legal advice at all times. And a lot of councilmen would come and say, I think this person's wrong. Or I've even had councilmen go to the other attorney in the office and say, I believe that the city attorney is wrong. And I've been lucky enough to work with deputies who say, I respect her opinion and I hope you do too. And so that is kind of one of our things. I mean, it'd be something different if it was, you know, an ethical situation and which happens to me all the time, and then I need guidance. But for the most part, I think one advice is the advice to all. and you just do the best you can with it without violating open meeting. Of course.
Yeah. That's true. All
That
right.
concludes my canned
All right.
questions.
Okay, thank you. I have some follow-up questions to ask you here and understanding. So if you're appointed commission counsel, you'll be required to file a financial declaration with the Nevada Secretary of State that discloses certain financial details of your private financial information. Do you have any problems with that? Have you read the restrictions on the position of commission counsel listed in NRS 281A.250?
I have, and I have questions about that.
Okay.
I noticed that you are not to do, it says to devote its entire time during the commission to the commission counsel's work. I don't have any issue with that. Like I told you, loyal and dedicated, and I always put in my hours. I have a friend who would be moving here to open an office Memorial Day weekend as a law and trust, and sometimes I would go in and help her. If that's inappropriate under the Ethics Commission, of course, I would run it through Ross and Liz, and see whoever would be the appropriate person to make that decision. I would never receive compensation for it, or if it's allowed, I don't want to ever step on any toes in any of my outside work. So everything would be run through to make sure that it was good. I fully intend to dedicate my entire time to this. And if there's outside work availability, we could discuss it, but I know that it's a position where you're going to constantly be in an ethic dilemma if you have an outside employment. And so it would certainly be something that I would avoid if at all possible.
Yeah, it's been pretty, in a lot of the appointed positions, you're not allowed to have outside employment. Like my chief deputy, when I was controller, could not have outside employment. I could have outside employment. They could. Not that I had time, so. But, so that's one of those things. The other thing is, and I want to confirm that you'll abide if you're hired. You're also precluded from being actively involved in the work of any political party or political campaign.
Yes, I did read that in the restrictions and the statute as well.
The nice thing is, you don't have to make donations anymore if you do. I saved a lot of money becoming a commissioner. Yes. So that's one perk of the job.
Yeah, I did see all of those, and those aren't anything that I would be interested in doing, so.
And my next question here, do you have any questions for us?
Certainly, I think, what are your expectations from me in this position, being the counsel to the commission?
Expectations, okay.
Let me start.
You can start.
So expectations are, we have somebody currently sitting to the right of our chair that's fulfilling the duties of this position. She's doing it part-time. She's actually doing 2 full-time jobs. She's doing this job and she's doing her attorney general job. So
That's why it gets.
So the expectation is you'll be able to pick up from her and just do the best you can. It's a brand new job for you, but it sounds like experience wise, there's a lot of similarities to what you're currently doing. But the expectation is hit the ground running. The former person that was in this position had been in there for quite a few years. And so she was pretty adept at doing the duties and the job. But the reality of it is it's a new job. So my expectation for you is that you're going to ask a lot of questions. You're going to get to know the staff, because as we talked about earlier, it's a small office that you're familiar with. You're going to get to know the weaknesses and the strengths of everybody in the office. You're going to learn about your weaknesses quickly on things that you don't know about what this job entails, but you're also going to have a great people that will assist you in helping you with that job. Also have associate counsel. Liz is sitting right there. Will be a great resource. So those are my comments about what expectations might be.
Well, and to follow up on that, besides doing the job, but our previous commission counsel and our current one really helped guide the commission. They really have helped us to make good decisions. So, our commission is respected, okay? And for us, the non-attorneys, myself and Vice Chair Dufferin and Commissioner Oscarson. Sometimes we need a little more help than all the attorneys that we have on here, but giving us good guidance and keeping the mission of the commission upheld. I think that's really what we expect, and we also, we like having a fresh set of eyes on things. I mean, we've gotten Executive Director Armstrong and he's brought in a lot of new things that we didn't have before. So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
the fresh eyes and stuff. And one thing I never like to see people do it is say, well, that's how you guys have always done it. That's how we're always going to do it. If you see things that can be improved upon, we expect you to bring those up and not just, oh, that's the way they always did it, so that's how we do it. We don't think that way here.
Great.
Yeah, and in drafting opinions, which this job primarily does or that's a big part of the job.
Especially now.
Like today on our agenda, we had an opinion that was drafted and then the individual wanted us to relook at it. We did, and we're moving forward to relooking at it. So that fresh set of eyes is always good. It's good to see what the commission has done in the past in certain situations, but it's also good to have fresh eyes, fresh ideas, and a fresh look at things to say, well, wait a minute, there's another way to look at this. So that would be an expectation just naturally that you would have by coming into this position.
Yeah. And I will say this job, okay, it's kind of unique, right? Because you report to the commission. Executive Director reports to the commission. You don't have any staff under you, but you have staff that is there to
I
help
noticed
you
that as well.
But when we get cases, once it's to panel, then there's a wall that comes up between you and Executive Director and Associate Counsel and stuff. So sometimes that's kind of when we ask the question, what do you do when you can't ask somebody something? Sometimes there's going to be situations like that. You can do hypotheticals, but you can't discuss the case between yourselves. But that's just something to be aware of. So sometimes it'll be like, oh man, I guess you'll ask your cat or dog or something, or your horse. So those are our expectations and stuff. Any other questions?
I've noticed you have an increase in statistic numbers of requests for opinions and other various matters. And I don't really think I have a question as much as just looks like I look forward to working hard to try to help lighten some of the burden for everybody involved, and especially those doing two jobs. I know that feeling. So
Ross is doing, they're all doing 2, 3, 4 jobs. So, yeah, so.
Trickles down to.
And we have had an increase in advisory opinions, just because I think a lot of people are leaving government because they're tired, so.
Well, part of that too is because we have been more proactive in training, and our executive director's been out training. So that's the
always
goal.
causes an uptake.
Sure, we want people to know we exist, and so once they discover us, then they know there's another tool that they have, which are opinions and also complaints. So that drives business as well.
I think certainly you train and then they either realize somebody's doing something wrong or they need help with what they're trying to navigate. And
Yep.
but then it creates additional education and they can train others. So I think it's good.
But at the end of the day, that's why we're here. So
Yeah,
Exactly.
we're happy to do that.
instill the trust there. Is there anything else that you would like to add that can help us consider your application?
I think that you won't find anybody who's probably a little bit as passionate as I am about the ethics itself or the mission. The entire purpose of the commission is obviously, I mean, I'm going from a job that pays considerably more to try to take on a position. And I think, you serve your community locally for a while, and then you decide you want to do it at a little bit bigger state level. And some of those hurdles of commuting and things like that, we're willing to try to address and get through. And I think what I bring to the table is definitely some trench work that you see with the boards and navigating through the ethics in a realistic day-to-day application. And so I hope you guys do consider me for final application to the board.
We do have we have flexible work schedules, meaning you can work from home, and we're going to be continuing that. And, probably, if we were to hire you, probably the first month or so, you'd probably be coming into the office
Obviously.
a little bit more.
Yes.
But, once you get the hang of it, then, a lot of times then work from home. So,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
My mother lives in Carson. So
okay.
she'll be thrilled every time that I get to come to town. And my kids will be thrilled when I can still make their basketball and volleyball games. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Advice about the flexibility, because as I told you, I'm very dedicated. I make sure I put in my hours, and then I try to be a good mom and a good employee at the same time.
So, we're all about work-life balance. We really are, because
And it goes back to the stress relief, right? Finding
That's
what's
important.
perfect. So
Definitely. Do you have a sample of a document on which you were the principal drafter?
I don't, but I'd be happy to provide one
Okay,
to
so
the
if you
subcommittee.
please provide it to our Deputy Attorney General St. Jules.
Okay.
And so it can be provided to the commission if you're selected for another interview. Okay. And then,
May I ask a follow-up question on that?
yes,
Is it something where you're looking more for a motion at a district court level or a local level, or an ordinance that was drafted with the potential modifications to that ordinance?
Just say any legal
in
document
legal
that
document.
you prepared
Mhm.
personally, that you can choose. And
Yeah.
I would suggest taking a look at the legal documents that are on our website.
Thank you. And then next steps. We will be making the decision on who is going to go forward today. Yeah,
Okay.
after we get done interviewing everybody, right?
Appreciate that.
And then, so like I said, we're gonna do the full interviews with the full commission on May 30th. Okay. It will be probably at this location, or I don't know. Carrie, do you know? Yeah, we have it here. Okay. So it'll be at this location. All right. And if you're selected to go before the full commission, besides answering questions from all of the commissioners, you're going to be asked to make a presentation on an advisory opinion and a jurisdictional recommendation.
Okay.
So if you're selected, we will be sending out the sample.
Little homework
Oh, great.
assignment.
Okay.
It's a home, yeah, we will be sending out,
Okay.
an example of what we want you to do an advisory opinion on and a jurisdictional determination. So and you've got those from Tracy. I believe last us. Yeah, last us. Okay, so I knew somebody had them. And so with that, you don't have anything else, I think we're done. And thank you so much for your time. And
Very nice to get to meet you.
it was a
guys.
pleasure to meet you as well.
Likewise.
Thank you.
I know.
Ms. Greiner, welcome. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming here to interview with us. Just to let you know, little housekeeping things, there's going to be 2 sets of interviews if you move forward. So today the subcommittee is going to be interviewing you. And then we will select the applicants that will go before the full commission, who's going to receive that second interview. And we anticipate conducting interviews and hopefully selecting the commission council at a special meeting to be noticed on May 30th. All right. And we will be making a decision by the end of today. Before we start, I would like for you.
Sorry to interrupt. But how many will be selected for the?
It's,
next
we don't know. We don't know. It's up to the personnel subcommittee to select. So
We won't discuss out till all the interviews have
Yeah.
been done, and then we'll deliberate after that.
yeah, so we won't know. The last time
Could
we
be 0, could be 1, could be 2, could be 3,
could be 4.
could be 4, could be 5.
Whatever. I mean, the last time when we interviewed for the executive director position, we sent 3 to the full commission. So we, like I said, we won't know until we finish our interviews today. Right. Before we start, could you please give us a short introduction and let us know why you are interested in being our commission counsel and why you want to work here?
Okay, I occasionally look at job descriptions. I'm sure you guys have looked at my resume, and I sort of have a hodgepodge of administrative law contracts, part-time gigs, I guess. And occasionally I think, well, it'd be a lot easier to just have one group and one, because it's not necessarily one client, but one focus. And this job just caught my eye. I mean, I've been doing administrative law for so long, and I think of myself as sort of an administrative law geek. I just love administrative law. And I'm unusual too. I think I love being a lawyer. I love tackling legal issues. I love writing and analyzing. So this just caught my eye. I just thought it's more of the same of what I do, but also, I understand that there's some areas that I'd have to flesh out and learn, but it's a lot along the lines of what I've been doing and what I love.
Yeah, I was gonna, your comment about, you've got a lot of jobs, because on your resume, you've got all these, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it says from all these dates to present. So are those all just contract things, or
These
your
contracts? Yeah, yes. And I've occasionally thought about, well, maybe I should do like one, like when I worked for Robert Dotson, like maybe just do one thing. And then I thought, no, it's like having, a bunch of children, like, oh, I don't want to choose. I don't want, I like everything I'm doing, and I don't want to just, but something like this, I think would be interesting enough and a good fit. That's why I applied.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'm going to start asking some questions, and because this is a public meeting, the next several questions will relate to the job you had before your current job. Or if you want to, you can talk about your current job. I mean, you have several current jobs. So, but if you don't want to, you can use your job that you had as settlement judge if you want. Okay. So the first thing that I would ask you is, how would you change things at your previous job?
How would I change? I think one of the things I miss sometimes is the collaboration. And that's why I feel like this would be more collaborating or group work. I understand it's remote. So it's probably a different kind of collaboration, but still occasionally, or not occasionally, a lot of times with my jobs, I'm kind of on my own, and it's all me. and I like bouncing ideas off of other people, or getting suggestions, and I feel like it's probably the outcome could be stronger.
Okay. All right, thank you. Can you tell me about a failure in your last job? Or in one of your previous jobs?
It was a social services case. When I was a hearing officer, and I don't know if failure is the right word. It was just a case that was so hard to balance the parties, and I felt like it really could have gone either way, and I really went back and forth. I even wrote a decision one way, changed it back and forth, and I think in the end I felt like maybe I did the wrong thing, but so 20/20 hindsight.
Yes. Have you ever done something for someone and did not expect anything in return? If so, give me an example.
I've ever
Done
done
something for someone and not expect anything in return. And can you give me an example?
I think a lot of one of my jobs is with the Intertribal Court of Appeals, and even though it's sort of paid, I just don't always expect to get paid. It's just something that I feel like it's the right thing to do, and maybe I guess payment is not the end all, but it is. There's quite a bit of pro bono work with that.
Okay. All right, next question. If I were to ask 3 friends to tell me something about you, what would they say?
I would hope they'd say thoughtful, I guess people, maybe not in a friend context, but I'm known for being a good writer. And funny, I hate to say it, but I've been told that.
Okay. Nothing wrong with being funny. As you can see with this group.
Yeah.
All right. Would you characterize yourself as someone who gets ahead of deadlines or someone whose work is driven by deadlines?
I like to be ahead of deadlines. Definitely like that much more. But you know, life happen or things sometimes happen where you just usually I get something and I have like 24 hours to do it. You know, in theory, I like to be ahead.
Okay. I think you've pretty much answered this question. Do you prefer working collaboratively or independently? And the other thing under the change in your previous job, you said collaboration. So
Yeah. I'm here.
all right. Vice Chair Dufferin, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've got 6 questions and then we've got 3 more questions that we have to split up because our third member of our committee wasn't able to attend today, so we're splitting up his questions. So I'll start with my 6 questions. Have you read the commission's mission and guiding principles and the NRS and NAC relating to the commission? And if so, in what ways do you believe you could assist the commission in ensuring its objectivity, independence, and impartiality are beyond reproach?
And you know, I've skimmed them, and I think and I looked at the agendas and the minutes, and I think it's like I said, it's kind of along the same lines of what I've been doing. And I think I have pretty good judgment, but also I'm happy to rely on other people who have more experience in this particular area, you know, especially in the beginning.
Okay. Do you have any experience in preparing or presenting meeting materials for approval at a public meeting? And if so, let us know about that.
I don't think so. Yeah, I can't off the top of my head. Yeah. No, I know I work at the city attorney's office, so I prepare things related to you know, public things that involve the public. And like a different side of things when I'm still a hearing officer for the city of Reno. And so sometimes things that can be kind of, you know.
Those aren't public meetings, or are they? So
The hearings can be public, yeah.
Okay.
And occasionally there's some, I've not.
So like for those hearings that are public, have you prepared or presented any materials for approval at that meeting?
No,
Okay.
I've just had hearings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have you ever provided legal advice to an agency or private business on their litigation matters or daily operations?
All the time when I was working with Grill Concepts, all the time, every day.
So tell us more about that, the Grill Concepts, and what were the litigation matters that you and legal advice that you did for them?
So I came in, it was during COVID, and they were struggling. And they were trying to, a lot of things were going wrong. But I think one of the big chunks was, there were HR issues, getting rid of people, terminations or discipline, but the big chunk was renegotiating contracts. And a lot of those were lease, or a chunk of were like lease agreements that they were trying to get out of. So that was, but then, you know, day to day, occasionally I get the call about the chefs. We fired the chef and he took off with the chickens in the freezer, you know. So it was a whole range, but then, you know, on the other hand, I'd be negotiating a contract, getting out of a contract for $2 million. So, you know, day to day stuff was very varied.
And tell us more about Grill Concepts. What kind of a company was that?
So it's I don't know if you're familiar with Charles Mathewson. He passed away about a year ago or so, but he had, this is sort of a side business. He bought, it was at one point, it was over 20 restaurants throughout the country, not in Reno. And so they were trying to stay afloat. They ultimately filed for bankruptcy, lost. I wasn't involved in the bankruptcy case. They, they really had to. I think they're like at half the number of restaurants. But it, it was a business.
Were there any restaurants in Reno?
None in Reno.
Okay.
No. And then actually some of the other thing, there was a CNM was also tied to Charles Mathewson. He so he and his family had properties. So there were some issues that came up with that occasionally.
Yeah, so under that grill concepts and the CNM and on your resume, but that you did some government regulations. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was COVID related.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like, what do we do? and tell, like sometimes they just didn't sell because they were at different locations. So they would be asking me to find out what the local regulations
The
were.
local ordinance
Because
or whatever.
it just varied wherever you were. Wherever they were
Sure.
before they
Every
shut down.
jurisdiction's different, right?
It was.
What steps do you take before making a decision on how to solve a problem and why?
I'd say just gather facts really at first, and different sources, as many sources as I could find. I think there's always the written word, and then there's always, talking to people, and that's sometimes that's more helpful. It just depends on the situation, and depending on the situation, also asking other people's opinions.
Have you ever argued before a district court or Nevada Supreme Court on an appellate matter?
I have not.
Okay.
I mean, I've been, when I was with Rob Dotson, I helped him prepare for a big trial. It was a big civil case. It's like a week-long trial. So I was sort of, I did a lot of the trial prep.
With the Intertribal Court of Appeals of Nevada, you're on your resume, appellate court justice.
Correct.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's a different, not something that's very common. And this court is, again, it's been sort of up and down with funding, but we've continued on, plug through. And depending on the timing, there are many, or sometimes there are like 8 tribes that opt in through their councils. Sometimes there are 12 or 13. Occasionally, and it's like a regular appellate court. We have oral arguments, we decide motions. There's a panel of us, usually 3 at a time. When I'm the only one local, and just like anything else, you get through the record and write a decision. And Indian law it's different. It's hard to find. Sometimes it's not like Westlaw. You can't just find cases and. But it's a strong court. I mean, it's really, I feel like there's some really good decisions. The problem we have with that is that the records from the tribal court sometimes are a little bit difficult to get. But we do, we do what we can, or sometimes we just have to remand it back for another trial or hearing for findings of fact.
Okay, thank you. Based on your understanding of this position, what is more important, the ability to work as an independent contributor or as a team member?
I guess I would have, that was kind of a question that I was going to ask you
Sure.
guys. What?
Based on when you read the job description, what was your impression?
Sounded to me more like collaboration, but I have questions for you guys.
Sure.
And
Don't worry, we're gonna have.
You'll have plenty of time to ask
Yeah.
us questions. So those are my 6 questions.
Okay. All right, I'm going to ask you a few more questions. All right, for the questions that Commissioner Oscarson would have asked you, all right? How would you handle two commissioners disagreeing on the position the commission should take on a matter?
I think first I would ask others who might have dealt with the situation, just find out how they've handled that. Yeah, maybe this isn't appropriate, but if it was, if I don't know how to say it, so Tracy Chase, I know Tracy Chase, we've crossed over a little bit at the city attorney's office. And if it were appropriate, if the commission thought it was appropriate, I would ask her to see how she handled it. But I think, I know we're human and they're going to disagree and maybe not so eloquently disagree. I think, I've done a lot of mediations and I think sometimes it's just, if you can hear each side out, and I think a big part of that is just people wanting to be heard. And they, with like mediations, like each side needs to understand what the other side, what their point is.
Yeah, takes a lot of listening.
Listening is key.
Next question, what is your protocol for customer service, including returning phone calls and emails?
I hate having things dangling out there. Yeah. But as soon as I can.
Okay. Then my last question, the position of commission counsel is a salaried position versus an hourly job, okay? Do you understand that the legislative session is 120 days of dedicated time, often including weekends? Will you commit the time needed to assist the commission throughout the legislative session?
Yes.
So just a quick follow-up to that question. We kind of touched on this maybe a little bit earlier. So currently you've got the 5 different positions that sounds like you're contracted out with. So in your mind, if the commission decides to select you for this position that you're interviewing for, how would you handle those other 5 contracted positions?
Tell them I'm moving on.
Okay, so you're not anticipating trying to do all of that and this job?
Not. No, that's
Okay.
yeah.
Good, thank you.
And a lot of those I've been doing a long time.
2007 is a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, 3 more questions. That would be Commissioner Oscarson's questions. I will give. What have you done in the past to prevent a situation from becoming too stressful for you or your colleagues to handle? So what have you done in the past to prevent a situation from becoming too stressful for you or your colleagues to handle?
I think it's always about diffusing the situation, hearing people. And explaining facts, figures, I guess. And also trying, this is like mediations, you try to get the emotions down.
Have you ever held a position where you could not ask for guidance from other persons in your workplace, and how did you handle the challenge?
Yeah, that I think it goes back to some of these administrative hearings where it's all me, and I think in those situations I just go over the transcripts or the law over and over. So, it can take a while, but also rewarding. Backing up a decision it's definitely satisfying.
And what if I, as a commissioner, had a question? How would you handle responding to an individual question from a commissioner? And do you think that legal counsel should provide the other commissioners with the same information?
Probably. So, I mean, whatever protocol is, and I apologize if there's a specific provision that I'm aware of, but whatever has been done and what is it's the Ethics Commission, I want to do what's appropriate and not go behind people's backs.
Thank you.
All right. Right, thank you. Now, if you are appointed as commission counsel, you will be required to file a financial declaration with the Nevada Secretary of State that discloses certain details of your private financial information. Do you have any concerns with this filing? Have you read the restrictions on the position of commission counsel listed in NRS 281A.250? Okay, well, there's three main restrictions. And I want to confirm that you will abide by the following if you're hired for the position. One, commission counsel is precluded from being actively involved in the work of any political party or political campaign. Will you comply with this restriction?
Yes.
That's a good one to comply with because then you don't have to make donations anymore. You'll save money. Commission counsel must devote their entire time and attention to the business of the commission and not pursue any other business or occupation or hold any other office detracting from the performance of these duties. Will you comply with that restriction? Except on behalf of the commission, commission counsel may not communicate directly or indirectly with a state legislature or member of the local legislative body on behalf of any person to influence action on certain legislative or policy matters. Will you comply with this restriction? Now, you get to ask questions of us now.
As far as my job, I have a couple specific questions. Who would be supervising me, or is it?
So okay, so the way the commission is laid out, you report to the commissioners and our executive director reports to the commissioners. You don't have any staff that report to you. They all report to our executive director.
Who would I be working with most directly?
You'd be working with executive director.
Yeah, the day-to-day with the executive director and our associate counsel and the whole team, really, especially in the early stages of cases, it's very collaborative. Once we hit the review panel stage, a wall goes up, and then you're working more directly with the commissioners as they have to work towards an adjudication of the matter. And then at that point, typically our senior legal researcher also assists the commission counsel in reviewing all the documentation. Because at that point, the side over here is really kind of like a prosecution side, and then you're advising essentially our court.
Okay.
And then the drafting of opinions, which is a primary function of this position. I would say that that's collaborative as well. I mean, you'll have the same folks to talk to and, bounce stuff off of. And so essentially you're not really on an island. I mean, you are an individual performer because you've got specific duties, but the way the culture is here is that you're not by yourself. There's people to help you.
Yeah.
And as far as you mentioned with Tracy, who retired, and that's why we're trying to fill this position. Yeah, I mean, I personally would never have any issue with you talking to Tracy, and
Yeah, she's offered to
help.
whoever takes the
Yeah,
position.
so that would be a valuable resource that I would use if I were in your shoes. So yeah.
Even our deputy attorney general, she's used Tracy.
Yes, I've spoken with her numerous times at this point.
Yeah.
She's very helpful.
So much for her retirement.
She likes it.
She loves it.
Exactly.
She misses us. Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Some of us.
Some of us. Hey.
So,
Any other
Yeah,
questions?
training, how would that?
training, I mean, it's pretty much on the job training. We do send you to the COGO, right?
Yeah, there's a National Association of Ethics Agencies, and they have a conference every year that provides helpful information, and then We're having an online training system launched soon, so that would be part of the
Nice.
onboarding process. And that we have our senior legal researcher, which is also a paralegal position, a new person starting Monday, so we've got our onboarding schedule. It would be similar onboarding schedule.
When would this position start? Or when?
Well, I mean, we'll meet on May 30th. We will make the decision that day. And then we would, whoever we decide on, we would ask them, you know, how much notice do you need to give? You know, because in the position of your level and the people we're interviewing, I mean, we don't expect it to be a straight 2-week, I'm out of here. But, you know, I mean, I'd say 4 weeks at the most.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll work with whoever
Yeah, we'll work with them,
whoever
but
the
you know,
individual is, we'll work with them and make sure that it's fits for both sides.
yeah.
I want to make sure we don't want to rush somebody in that's not, needs to finish out
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
their, tie their loose ends up.
Yeah, so like if you had like a case that you're just finishing up and it's gonna roll over, we can,
But having said that, the position has been vacant for a while. We have been trying to fill this, so the sooner the better for the entire commission.
yeah. Sooner the better for the entire staff because everyone's been doing 2 and 3 jobs.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
For a
that's
while.
part of what I've been doing is I have control over what I take or don't take. So that wouldn't be a problem, let things go. And somebody else out there that would want one of my other contracts. I think. So, or I know people
Okay.
who's, you know, have similar
Mhm.
jobs. Can I ask another question?
Yeah,
Um,
all
as
questions
many
you
as you
want.
want to.
Okay, as far, I know you advertise this as a remote, how, can you just kind of
Well,
describe how that would work? and-
When we opened it up to be statewide, we said, okay, we need to kind of adapt to some of the new models. So we have a flexible work schedule, so you can work from home and you can work in the office. We envision this position, at least the first month or 2, working in the office because it'll be easier for getting trained and up to speed on things. And then as you become more comfortable with the job and understand the duties and what have you, then it can be opened up for more remote work. I mean, when we're getting ready for commission meetings, staff needs to be there. And then the other times, I mean, sometimes I know that Tracy liked to do her advisory opinions from home because she didn't get interrupted and stuff.
Yeah, they're, because advisory opinions are a big chunk of the commission council's day to day. Also, sometimes if you get like a bunch in at the same time, then Tracy would like to have it like a drafting day at home. We have the rest of the staff that is sort of within the Reno Carson area. Have the ability to do tele meeting right now, and most folks have about 1 day at home and three days in the office because our office is Monday through Thursday. We work 4/10s, so but there's flexibility, and then that's what especially with the commission council position, I think there's more based on the nature of you need to like a quiet place to draft, and then preparation for meetings is going to be phone calls with commissioners, which wouldn't involve the rest of the staff because the wall has been brought up. And so this position of the positions on the team lends itself more to the having a heavier amount of time remote. If that's what, I mean, I remember speaking to a potential candidate, they're like, can I come into the office? I like offices. I'm like, yeah, that's fine too. We've got space. If that's your preference. So we just try to be as flexible as possible.
How was Tracy? It sounds like she did a chunk at home or.
Yeah, it would
So
vary.
once COVID happened, then that's when all of a sudden it was okay to work from home. Prior to that, no, she would come in to the office. But once COVID happened, you know, of course, we worked from home for a long time there. And then when we did start coming back to the office, we told the commission staff, okay, we told the executive director and council, okay, as long as the office is manned, it's covered. We don't care where you work. You know, I mean,
As far as being available phone calls and such. Is that, I mean, right now I work, kind of all hours. Is that expected?
I mean, very rarely will I call up either the executive director or commission council after normal work hours. I may call you on Fridays. I may call you on a Friday, but I'm like not calling at night. Okay,
Yeah,
the other night,
Office is closed on Friday, but I definitely call you a lot on Friday, so I apologize. At a public meeting, I'm apologizing.
well, he called me from a ski area. Returned my call when he, so, but we try not to go out of that. I mean, I called the executive director this week at 6 or 6:30 at night. Hey, can you get me this, but that's very rare. Normally we try to keep it within business hours.
Do
Yeah,
you have time for a couple more?
Sure,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
How would you, I guess you alluded in the beginning to friendly work environment. Is there any way you're more specific about how you describe the work environment?
I mean, I don't work in the office, so
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because it's a pretty quiet office, unlike a lot of government agencies, we might have a lot of people coming in, we're pretty quiet. We have a monthly team meeting after each commission meeting to make sure we're all on the same page for the next month. And everyone's willing to step in and help each other with tasks that need to occur and stay on the same page. So as you saw from the commissioners, we like to have a good time, even though we take what we do seriously, and we have a good relationship, even with the attorneys that that are representing clients that have issues in front of us. We take a real collaborative and friendly approach with them as well, because we get just better results.
Sense. Last question, what do you see as the greatest challenge this next year, the commission?
greatest challenge. I think at the rate, the pace that we're going on requests for advisory opinions and complaints being filed, I mean, our caseload is up substantially from any other year. So the big challenge is we have a small staff, and how do we keep doing all the work that we're doing? I mean, how many things did you guys send us in this last week? It seems like I had so much
lot.
homework.
A lot.
I mean, I think we have 9, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, I would, if the case volume continues the way that it has for the first half of this year, we'll get a real good sense when we do our data at the end of the fiscal year. But we're gonna have to come up with some potential options for streamlining some of those processes, because it's the old way of doing it. Like, we used to get an average of 13 advisory opinions a year, and we're already like at 24 for this year, right? We're only at May, and so that would be something to take a look at. And then I think, because we are seeing more complaints and taking more of those complaints through to adjudicatory hearings, there may be more litigation than there has been before. And because that's happened rarely in the past, I think one of the challenges is trying to find the right precedent or figure out what to do, because there's not a whole bunch of case law in Nevada anyway, but there's even less about Commission on Ethics opinions. So that may be a challenge as we go forward and have more people seek to, challenge the decisions of the commission in court.
Because, yeah, we have had, just since I've been on the commission, I think it started out, there's just one hearing that we've had several now.
Yeah, the other interesting thing on the horizon in the next 18 months, I think we'll have 4 commissioners turnover, which is likely because we've got a couple next year that are like term limited, and we've got some later this year that are term limited. And so there'll be a process to get new folks up to speed. And I would imagine for the commission council position, there might be more interaction with those newer commissioners as they try to figure out standard is for review panel or jurisdiction or all of those types of things.
And the volume increase in litigation and advisory opinions, that just kind of post-COVID, people are.
I think it's a combination of things. I think part of it, the advisory opinions, is because so many people are leaving government, okay? To go elsewhere. And then the other thing that's happening is our executive director, he's doing a really good job with outreach and training. So people are more aware of the ethics law. So he'll go out and train, and then we start seeing the cases come from there.
It's all
I
your
mean,
fault.
Right, yep.
You know, I mean, be careful what you ask for. I mean, he's going out and training and they're like, oh. You know, so, but that's a good thing. I mean, and we will be hiring one additional person. We just got it in our budget. And it'll be like a PIO position. So that individual will be doing more of the training and the tweets and all that, because right now our executive director does all of that, plus the executive director's job, which is investigations and all that.
All right, well, you guys answered all my questions.
Okay.
You have any more questions for me?
Well, if you just would like to add something more about, you know, is there something else you would like us to consider your application, some closing comments?
I think, you know, like I said before, this is a lot like things that I've been doing. I think the closest job I've had when it was actually a volunteer job was on the State Bar Discipline Committee. See a lot of similarities. And even though it's volunteer, I took it very seriously and chaired a few hearings and wrote the decisions, and you know, it's just like, I always feel like you flush it out, and you tell a story and then you have to justify it. I read some of your decisions, and I'm not saying every case is the same, but there's always sort of a formula. I think I could do it.
Do you have a sample of a document on which you could, that you were principal drafter?
Yeah. I can
Okay.
find them, not
Okay.
on me.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't expect it. So if you can provide it to our Deputy Attorney General, St. Jules. So that way it can be provided to the commission if you're selected for second round of interviews.
Should I send it to?
I'll give you my
She'll give you
my email address.
Our next steps, we will be making a decision today, as I said, on whom we're going to interview in front of the full commission on May 30th, right? And it'll be here at this location. And if you're selected to go before the full commission, besides answering questions from all of the commissioners, you will also be asked to make a presentation on an advisory opinion and a jurisdictional recommendation. And our executive director will be sending out the scenarios for you to use, okay? And
Some time.
Hmm?
There's some preparation time.
there's some, yeah, well, that's why we didn't say, okay, yeah, we're gonna have full commission in a couple days. So this gives you, today is the 17th, so like 13 days to, you know. And we look at it this way because there's some times where you have like a week to do an advisory opinion when they ask for an emergency determination. So this is a good amount of time. So,
Okay.
But after we make our decision today, they'll be getting that material out to you, depending on what time we finish today, either at the end of the day or tomorrow morning. Okay.
Right.
Ready? Well,
Okay.
Ms. Greiner, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you coming in.
Hello?
Good afternoon, Mr. Davis. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you all?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much for joining us today and taking time to come and talk to us and tell us about yourself. I just want you to know that we're going to be doing 2 sets of interviews, okay? The subcommittee will be interviewing you today, and then we will select the applicants that will go before the full commission for a second interview. And that interview, we anticipate conducting it on May 30th, okay?
Okay,
And but before we start, what I would like to do is give us a brief introduction and let us know what prompted your interest in the commission and why do you want to work for us?
Well, I've had a long and varied career, but most of my career has been in public service. And that's the part of the service I like most. I also have a strong interest in upholding the ethics in the state of Nevada. I once ran for judge here in the state of Nevada and was running against Donald Mosley. And I'm sure the commission members are all familiar with Judge Mosley's ethical problems. And then I again ran against Judge Assad on the municipal court based on the same reasons, because that's one of the things that I think that is important, that our political leaders and governmental employees have strong ethical convictions and that those ethical requirements are upheld so that the citizens can have confidence in those people who are have a say in how their lives are run. It's I think especially in the times that we live in, with allegations on both sides of the aisle about the ethical problems that they both allege. I think it's important that not only do we have that we have people that are that are competent and able to to discern the issues involved and discern what the problems are, but also that'll have an unbiased and impartial view of the matter. I think I'm one of those people. I've tried to, throughout my career, I've tried to hold the highest ethical standards that possible. I've never had any complaints. I've served on the committee for functional equivalency committee for the bar, and one of our functions is to determine whether or not the bar members people who are applying for the bar have ethical considerations. If we find those, then we submit our notations to the bar so that they can review those matters also. And that's part of my career. Right now, I'm a senior deputy attorney general, and the reason why I'm doing that is I was associate general counsel for the Las Vegas Resorts holding the Sahara Hotel, and I just wasn't having the satisfaction that I had when I was prior to government service. I mean, it was a really good job. Made a whole lot more money than I'm making now, and also a lot more money than I'd be making for the commission. But that's not why I became an attorney. I became an attorney in order to serve, to help the system move along and to help improve the lives of those people around me. And so that's why I'm here today.
Right, thank you. Now, because this is a public meeting, the next several questions will relate to the job you had before, or it could be your current job.
Okay.
If you want to, but if you want to talk about your previous job before the job you have, you can, right? How would you change things at your previous job?
You mean at the Sahara? How would I change?
Mhm.
I don't. What
It
do
could
you
be
mean
on your-
change?
Could be either your current job or your previous job.
How would I change? I'm not exactly sure about what you mean with what you would like me to change. How do they change the way things are run at my current job?
Well, I mean, everybody comes into a job and they say, I think we could do this better.
Okay. Well, in the current job I have, we face a very difficult, challenging role. I've worked for the public safety divisions, which primarily represents the Nevada Department of Corrections. And in that role, we face it very difficult because we have by far the largest caseload of any division in the AG's office. And so, I would want to do something to try to change the way that the cases come to the AG's office. One of the tools that's available is the arbitration process. I mean, not the arbitration, but mediation. The grievance process, alternative resolution, dispute resolution. Under the current statutes, they have an opportunity to prisoners have to exhaust their administrative remedies before they can come to court. Right now, though, I don't think we're effectively using the exhaustive procedures because under applicable exhaustion requirements, that under normal circumstances, if you exhaust your administrative remedies and they make actual findings of fact, those facts are binding unless there's not substantial evidence to prove those claims. Substantial evidence means just any little bit of evidence. And so if we were actually using that to make findings of fact at the prison level, then we'd have those facts conclusively established as long as we had some evidence. And therefore, I think we'd be able to reduce our litigation caseload significantly. And the things. The problem is that the problem we have on the state of Nevada is what we have always is the problem of money. That, in order to have good administrative law judges that would be able to make those kind of findings, they would have to pony up some money up front to hire those people and to be able to improve the situation.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell me about a failure in your last job or previous jobs?
Failure. Well, I can tell you that something that's of great concern to me in my current job is I currently have 116 open cases. In my entire career, I've never had so many cases, not even half. I've never had even half that many cases before. And so one of the things that I'm struggling with is keeping up with deadlines and making sure that all the deadlines are calendared. I have a tremendously great secretarial staff that helps us do that. But when I had more time, I would go one by one through these cases and then go through and find out, and recheck every, date and make sure all the dates are calendared correctly. Right now, I frankly don't have the time to do that. And so I've missed some deadlines that I wish I hadn't missed, and I'm still trying to do better. And we're trying to do better too, because we're trying to hire more attorneys at the Public Safety Division. I feel a little bit guilty, to be honest, because if I leave, that's just one less attorney that they'll have to work on their cases. But I really would welcome. I think my tasks, my abilities are more towards what would be for the Ethics Commission. I have great experience in writing opinions. I've done that on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and on the district court level. I have great ability to analyze issues. I think I would be, like I said, an impartial person that would be able to help litigate matters involving, push forward hearings involving people with ethical complaints against them. And so that's why I would like to, again, be part of the Ethics Commission.
Okay. Have you ever done something for someone and did not expect anything in return? Can you give me an example?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I do church service all the time without getting anything in return. I was part of for most of my life, not right now, but for most of my life, I was in the Boy Scouts of America, and I did everything from being a Cub den leader all the way up to being the representative for our district in the Boy Scouts. I've been part of the Functional Equivalency Committee. Not getting anything in return for that. And in fact, we're kind of a little bit frustrated with right now with the way the rules are, and our committee is now trying to reach out to the Nevada Supreme Court in order to make some changes so that we can maybe more effectively and have more guidance on how we make our decisions, so that we're kind of at the same par. But those are all areas that I had, Also my family, I guess everybody has family, and you do things for them all the time without expecting anything from them.
Okay, all right. If I were to ask 3 friends to tell me something about you, what would they say?
That I care about other people. I think that my friends realize that they can reach out to me anytime they want. That if I can do something to assist them, that I would. I think they would say that I have a pretty good sense of humor. And I guess the one thing they probably would say negative about me is I'm not the neatest person in the world. I kind of pride myself, maybe I had a little bit too much pride that I have a kind of a messy office showing that I'm actually doing work. But that's me, but I still am able to get the work done.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Next question, would you characterize yourself as someone who gets ahead of deadlines or someone whose work is driven by deadlines?
Well, it depends on the circumstances. If the circumstances permit, I'm the person trying to work ahead of deadlines. I want to get, I would rather be in a position that I'm doing that. But a lot of times in the legal profession, you're kind of deadline driven because that's the way the courts run. The courts are, the hurry up and wait thing, where you have this deadline you have to meet and you have lots of cases and you want to make sure and you just have to get them done. But the thing is so what that entails is that I usually spend long hours. I mean, my whole career has been spending, I usually work more than 40 hours a week. I certainly do now. And, but that's just the way. If you have a case, if the caseload, I have no idea what the caseload is before the ethics commission, but if you have a caseload where I can get ahead of the deadlines, I will be way ahead.
Okay. Well, we are pretty busy with our cases. I mean, we're exceeding any other records. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, so it's not going to be different from what I do now then.
Yeah, but I don't think you'll have 116.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one good thing. Do you prefer working collaboratively or independently?
I guess I'd have to say both. I mean, I love working collaboratively in that I love being around people and associating with them and bouncing ideas off of people. But I do not like to be micromanaged. I think that I'm an adult. I think we're all adults and that we need to treat each other as adults and that we can expect the other person's going to do their job. They know how to do it and they don't need to be told every little detail on how to do their job. So I'm pretty independent that way in that I kind of work ahead and I get my job done and that's, I guess that's enough said about that.
Okay. All right, well, that's all of my questions for now. Thank you.
Sure.
Vice Chair Dufford.
Mr. Davis, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Getting a little winded here. It's been a long day.
I'm sorry. You
No,
could
it's
just
good.
pick me and then we can go home.
I got some questions for you. And number one question, have you read the commission's mission and guiding principles and the NRS and NAC relating to the commission? And if so, in what ways do you believe you could assist the commission in ensuring its objectivity, independence, and impartiality are beyond reproach?
Okay. I am sure I have read those at one point in time in my career. I cannot say I have read them recently. But I can tell you, I think I've mentioned this before, is that I believe that I am an objective person. I've had 7 years now in the judiciary where I've actually worked in the judiciary. And so my job was to be the objective voice, when I made my recommendations to the judge, whether it was Judge Rawlinson or Judge George, and was able to do that well. I also, when I was at the City of North Las Vegas, I had that same responsibility. I had the responsibility of giving my unbiased opinion to people in to the council and to the department heads. And I can give you one instance, for example, where there was a department head that wanted to use money from one fund for one purpose. And I was asked to give my opinion about whether that was possible. I gave my opinion no. I got a lot of pressure to state that, hey, no, we can use it for that. And I go, well, that's not my opinion. And so I'm not going to change it just because you want a different result. And so I did that. When I was at the Sahara Hotel, I think it was critical. I mean, we were dealing with the gaming commission. And so I had to make sure when I was giving opinions about what gaming regulations or laundering money issues, when laundering money would come up, or other issues that I was always, far on the side of the law rather than, doing something that might make the casino a little bit more money or do something along those lines.
Thank you for that response. Another question. Do you have any experience in preparing or presenting meeting materials for approval at a public meeting? And if so, please describe.
I did it for the city of North Las Vegas. I prepared meetings for public meetings. It wasn't as often, that wasn't my main responsibility. I usually did that in a fill-in basis. I also prepared materials and reviewed materials for our compliance meetings at the Sahara Hotel. Now, those weren't public meetings, but they were along the same type of lines where I was going through the materials and making sure that we had everything we needed in order so people could be able to vote on matters to determine whether we should report something to the federal government or report something to the Gaming Commission or some other thing along those lines.
Have you ever provided legal advice to an agency or private business on their litigation matters and or daily operations? And if so, please explain.
Yeah, I did it for the Sahara. Well, I do it now for the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's one of my responsibilities. I wish I could have more time to do that, but I'm really, a lot more time is done by litigation. But for example, right now, they are thinking about opening up a sweat lodge to different inmates, and so I'm providing guidance on that for the Nevada Department of Corrections. When I did it at the Sahara Hotel, I was constantly advising them on the different regulatory matters. Like I said, the Gaming Commission, tax matters, federal money laundering issues. City of North Las Vegas, same thing. Lots of times. In fact, I was part of the Southern Nevada Water. I was their attorney representative for the Southern Nevada Water Authority. I negotiated contracts on behalf of both the Sahara Hotel and the City of North Las Vegas. Anytime you're also doing, my whole career has been commercial, almost other than my career in public service, my career has been in commercial litigation. And so anytime you're dealing with commercial litigation, you're also advising your client, say, hey, here's how you get out of this and you don't do this again, so you don't get this problem again. And so it's pretty much my whole career has been involved in that.
Okay, little different direction here on this next question. What steps do you take before making a decision on how to solve a problem and why?
Well, first of all, my first step is going to be trying to make sure I know what the problem is. I think when you got to define the parameters of whatever problem you've got, because lots of times there could be misunderstandings and you think it's one way, but the person that you're actually going to give the advice to, he thinks it's a different way. So you got to make sure and have that clarified. Second of all, I do an extensive amount of research. I do not believe in giving opinions cold. The laws and rules change too often. There are things that are going on that I might not be aware of. Well, I do have extensive experience, and that helps me direct my research. I think that it's a unwise choice to give cold legal advice without trying to update your information. Next, I try to write, depending on the way how they want it presented, whether written or oral. I try to make sure it's clearly understood what I'm saying. I think what's one of my I've been praised repeatedly by judges, employers, on my writing ability, my ability to effectively communicate my ideas and to present them in a way that's in a persuasive manner.
Thank you. Have you ever argued before a district court or Nevada Supreme Court on an appellate matter?
Yes, I've too numerous to count. I just returned from arguing before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. In fact, I'm right now handling all the appeals for the Nevada Department of Corrections. I've argued in front of the Nevada Supreme Court numerous times, district courts more times than I can count. I mean, motions for summary judgment, motions to dismiss, discovery issues. Just, I have over 25 years of experience in doing that.
Thank you. Based on your understanding of this position, what is more important, the ability to work as an independent contributor or as a team member? What's more important in this position?
Well, I would imagine it would have to be a team member because the decisions, like for a judge, the decisions are going to be made by the commission. And they're going to be the ones that I take my, how they want the case decided. That's going to be how the case is going to be decided, And so I got to believe that that's the most collaborative. That's got to be a collaborative effort between me and the commission on how those issues get decided.
Thank you. That concludes my 6 questions for now.
Right. Yes. Now we're going to ask you the questions that Commissioner Oscarson would have asked had you been here today. So, right.
Okay.
How would you handle 2 commissioners disagreeing on the position the commission should take on a matter?
Well, it depends on what the disagreement is. Okay, if it's a disagreement with respect to something that's a policy matter, on things that are on how policy should be handled, my decision would be to stay out of it because that's not my. I'm not supposed to dictate policy to the commission. The commission dictates the policy. If it is a legal matter, which requires a legal opinion, then I'm going to give my unbiased legal opinion as how it's going to be, how I think the law is, and try to explain it in a persuasive manner so that I can persuade, and I'm not certain that my opinion is going to be jive with either one of the 2 commissioners' opinion on a legal matter, but try to persuade them that is, and give them my unbiased legal advice about what I believe the legal basis is for that, whatever problem or decision is, and then try to do it in a persuasive, friendly manner and not back down on those issues.
All right, thank you. What is your protocol for customer service, including returning phone calls and emails?
Returning phone calls, I do great at. I'm an older individual, and so my familiarity, I love reaching out to people and calling them on the phone and having them call me, and so that we can talk about it and talk back and forth. And so I reach out. Emails, I return emails generally, but probably not as promptly as as somebody who's younger than me who grew up with emails, instead of somebody like me who grew up before there were even, who became an attorney before there were even computers, really. So.
All right. The position of commission counsel is a salaried position versus an hourly one. Do you understand that the legislative session is 120 days of dedicated time, often including weekends? Will you commit the time needed to assist the commission throughout the legislative session?
Yes, I've always done that. Like I said, I've worked. I don't know if there's been a job I've ever had where I've worked 40-hour work.
Right, thank you. Vice Chair Duffer.
So I've got 3 more questions that Commissioner Oscarson would have asked you. I'm going to ask you those questions today. First one is, what have you done in the past to prevent a situation from becoming too stressful for you or your colleagues to handle?
Well, I guess one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm trying to make sure I do my fair share of the caseload. I mean, I think that's, we have a lot of younger attorneys, and their caseload isn't nearly as substantial as mine. I try to provide a sounding board for anybody who wants it. I have an open door that when anybody has a question about how something should be handled, that I usually will, if I have almost on all occasions, I will take the time to address the issue right then and to help clarify any situations they might have. I also, in order to prevent it from becoming stressful, I follow my rule. I don't micromanage other people. I make sure I believe that they're adults, that they know how to do their jobs, and I trust them to do it. And so I think if you show that you trust other people, I think that makes their job a whole lot easier than if you are continue looking over somebody's shoulder.
What do you do if they're not doing their job?
I've only had that situation in at 2 times. Then in those 2 times, I go through the chain of command and make indications that those people aren't doing their job. I usually try to take the person aside privately first, though, and say, hey, you really need to do this. But if there's no correction to do, then move it up and move it to the chain of command.
Thank you. Next question. Have you ever held a position where you could not ask for guidance from other persons in your workplace? And how did you handle this challenge?
I've never been in that position ever. Every time I've been blessed to work with great people, and they've all been very kind to me, and I tried to reciprocate.
All right, so let me rephrase the question. If you were in that situation, so let me rephrase it. If you held a position where you could not ask for guidance from other people in your workplace, how would you handle that?
I would do. I guess I would do what I normally do. I would go out and research and make sure that I could figure out what my duties were. I mean, like I said, I'm an independent worker, so if somebody isn't providing needed guidance, I've never had any troubles at all in going out and doing my best in figuring out what I think needs to be done. And I don't think if you talk to any of my prior employers, I don't think any of them would say that they've had any problems with me in that respect, that I've always been able to and try to and have usually surpassed their expectations.
Okay, thank you. Last question for me. What if I as a commissioner had a question? How would you handle responding to an individual question from a commissioner? And do you think that legal counsel should provide the other commissioners with the same information?
I haven't looked exactly how the council. I can tell you how I handled it in North Las Vegas. When I was deputy city attorney for North Las Vegas, I was the attorney for the city. I was not attorney for any particular legislators. So my obligations and my fiduciary duties were to the city and not to particular legislators. And so I would assume, and I'm not certain, like I said, this is where I don't like doing this, because this is kind of like a cold off the shoulder thing, but I would assume that the same thing would apply to the commission. And that when you tell me something, that's not confidence. I'm general counsel for the commission, and therefore I have an obligation to, full disclosure to all other commissioners, and I would do the same for them and that I would do for you. But like I said, I want to caveat that with that I would have to research and update my viewpoint on that with respect to the commission.
Fair enough. Thank you. Those are my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, if you're appointed as commission counsel, you'll be required to file a financial declaration with the Nevada Secretary of State that discloses certain details of your private financial information. Do you have any concerns with this filing?
No.
Okay. Have you read the restrictions on the position of commission counsel listed in NRS 281A.250?
No, I have not.
Okay. There are 3 main restrictions, and I want to confirm that you will abide by the following if you're hired for the position. Commission counsel is precluded from being actively involved in the work of any political party or political campaign. Will you comply with this restriction?
Yes, in fact, I don't belong to any political party, so.
Okay. All right. Commission counsel must devote their entire time and attention to the business of the commission and not pursue any other business or occupation or hold any other office detracting from the performance of these duties. Will you comply with this restriction?
Yes.
Except on behalf of the commission, Commission council may not communicate directly or indirectly with the state legislator or a member of a local legislative body on behalf of any person to influence action on certain legislative or policy matters. Will you comply with this restriction?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, you get to ask us questions.
Well, one of the things that I was wondering about, it said that this is a remote position. I was wondering what that really means. What does remote mean? Does remote mean, I love working from home. So if that's allowed, that would be great. If it doesn't, it's not, but that would be something that, that would, I know that remote means also that, I think most of the commission things happen up in Carson City, but
Right.
where am I allowed to work from?
Well, I mean, once you understand, we'll have to work out the things here, but you will have to come up here in the beginning just to start to learn the procedures and the process and stuff. And then after that, then you would be working from home. When we hold our meetings, they're always up in Carson's. Most of the time they're in Carson City or Reno. So you'd have to be present for those. And that's just something that you would be working out with the commission or the executive director, Flo. I don't know if you want to make any comments on that.
Yeah, I think because of your location in Las Vegas, we don't have an office in Las Vegas. And so you would be primarily working from home with occasional travel for work, for either commission meetings or if there are other activities that we might be here or somewhere else in the state. But given your location in Las Vegas, if you were selected for the position, your primary work, your duty location would be your.
Oh, okay. Well, that works out. I have a great home office, so.
Okay.
So whenever I can and do currently, they allow us to work from home. Sometimes it's just not possible because of, the courts, you have to show up to court and things like that. But generally, I like doing that. How often do you? I know you travel. Have traveled to Reno. Is that monthly? Is that or more than monthly? Or
No, we generally have one commission meeting a month. And like this year, July will be dark. And possibly September. Just depends on our caseload and what's coming up. Usually December, we're dark. And we hold 2 meetings in Vegas a year generally. Usually April and October. Right.
okay.
And sometimes we have special meetings, but oftentimes we do special meetings by Zoom.
And when the legislature's in session, it sounds like I'm going to be up in Carson City more often. How is that? Is that the 24/7 thing during those 4 months, or is that?
Well, it's just being available. Because they do have remote site at the state building that, if you had to be there, you could do that and stuff, but it's just,
Yeah, you'd be able to, if we needed your assistance with a bill presentation or a budget presentation, you could either do that up in Carson City or do it from Grant Sawyer.
Okay.
Move from Grant Sawyer, it sounds like, but they always have a Vegas location for participation, but sometimes we'll get questions and need legal analysis of an amendment really quickly or something like that. So the availability is more important than necessarily being physically in Carson City for the session, for the commission council role.
Okay.
any other questions?
And well, I guess that's the question I have. What is your guys' opinion on whether or not I should how I should handle if one commission member wants me to give them an opinion, whether you guys think I should be keeping that a secret from the other commission members, or whether you think I have an obligation to tell you guys all.
Look, here's the situation. Different situations come along when we're given like a jurisdictional determination or an advisory opinion. Oftentimes I would call up commission counsel and say, I'm not understanding this. Can you help me here? And Tracy would never send that out to the rest of them. But if it was something that was pertinent to the understanding of the rest of the commissioners, then she would do that. You know,
Okay.
so those are the questions that a commissioner would come and ask council.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, it's just like anything else. If one commissioner has some information that the others probably should have, and you gave that information, that legal advice to the one commissioner, and it has to do with a case, for example, and all commissioners should probably have that same information to help them make a decision. So you don't want to hide information from any one commissioner in that regard. But if it's just simply a clarification of maybe something that you've written in an opinion, and the one commissioner's calling you up and saying, I don't understand what you mean here by this. I mean, that's not something that you would have to share with all the other commissioners. But I mean, it just depends fact specific and situation specific would be my answer.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question.
That's-
Do you have any other questions about the position itself?
So what percentage, what do you think the percentage of time is done on the different tasks? What are the major tasks that you feel that the commission council is doing?
The major tasks, advisory opinions are a big chunk of your work that you would be doing. And that's when people come to us and they say, well, I'm thinking of leaving my public sector job and go into the private sector. Can I go work for this company or whatever? So cooling it off, or city council members, county commissioners will come to us and say, can I vote on this issue, or how do I handle that? So that's a big chunk of it right now. And then the other part is often assisting in the judicial determinations and stuff. I mean, kind of assisting the executive director in that sense. And then getting ready for the monthly meetings, getting the chair ready for the meetings, and giving good guidance to the commissioners, you know, so we can continue to uphold our mission and do what we say we're supposed to be doing. I think that's the biggest percentage time. I mean, Executive Director Armstrong could tell you because he's been kind of doing both jobs.
Yeah, I think, you know, the Commission Council takes the lead on advisory opinion drafting. That's kind of the bulk of the day to day. And then on complaints, what we typically do for the jurisdictional recommendations is rotate between the Commission Council, myself, and the Associate Council, depending on workload for those 3 people to do an initial draft. And then everybody participates in those review. And then, you know, the big chunk that I don't necessarily see, I know that it happens as executive director, I don't, you know, see or participate, is that getting into that, understanding the rhythm of commission meetings. So commission materials have to go out a week before. So that means we need to get them to council with enough time for council to review them before the meeting materials go out. And then helping to advise commissioners on their legal questions as they approach the meeting, so they can ask the right questions or bring up the right topics during the meetings. And then once a case goes beyond the review panel, teaming up with the senior legal researcher to work on any notices and orders, and you know, in that moment, that commission council role becomes almost like a court administrator role in helping to work towards the adjudicatory hearing or whatever the disposition may be, if there's not an adjudicatory hearing.
Yeah, and then, you know, making sure that we're complying with the open meeting law.
Not the meeting law, right? Yeah, that was a big deal in North Las Vegas.
And then also if there's any litigation that the commission's involved in, then this position would be handling that primarily.
How much litigation is there, do you think, in the commission? How many cases do you think you see?
I mean, we haven't had a lot lately, but we have some cases coming up that could be.
Yeah, there's not, you know, I think there's not any current open cases. we have some adjudicatory hearings coming up, which may get a petition for judicial review. I think the other item we see sometimes is we might get a subpoena for information that's confidential by law, so then there's litigation to quash the subpoena. So not a lot currently, but I know in the past, there have been some times where that is taking up a bunch of the commission counsel's time. That's not currently the case.
Well, I quashed all the subpoenas for, came to the city of North Las Vegas, so done that too.
Good.
Anyway,
Anything else?
well, I think that's about it. I really appreciate their time though, and that giving me this opportunity to address subcommittee, and thank you for listening to me.
Okay. So that would be, and I just want to ask you, is there anything else you want to add to assist us in evaluating your application?
Just that I'd be thrilled to be able to have the position. I think that, like I said, this is more, I think, akin to what I like doing most, which is the funnest job I ever had was working for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where I'm helping draft opinions and making law. It's something I enjoy doing, and so I would really appreciate the opportunity to do it with the commission.
All right. So just so you know, for next steps, okay, before I do that, do you have a sample of a document on which you were the principal drafter?
I have all, yeah, I do.
Okay, we will go and give you,
Executive Director Armstrong can provide you with my information. I'm Deputy Attorney General at Lena St. Jules. I'm filling in for Commission Counsel until Commission Counsel is hired. And so through Director Armstrong, if you could get me a copy of a document you primarily worked on, I can have that ready for the commissioners if you're selected.
Okay.
and then next steps, we will be making a decision today on whom we're going to interview in front of the full commission on May 30th. If you are selected to go before the full commission, besides answering questions from all of the commissioners, you will also be asked to make a presentation on an advisory opinion and a jurisdictional recommendation. And once we make our decision, then we will be getting the cases, I should say, the samples that you will do the advisory opinion from and the jurisdictional determination. Okay. All right.
That'll be fine.
Okay, great. All right.
How soon do I need to get this writing sample to you by?
Well, you're doing a presentation to us. Oh, the writing samples, that would have to be,
The writing sample that you're
It'll be the
talking
same
about. But-
If you're selected for the May 30th, we'll set a deadline for the other written materials, and so it will be along with that.
Okay, so I don't have to get this to you by tomorrow then?
No.
no.
Okay.
So, okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Davis, for your time. And we appreciate your interest in being on Commission Council.
Thank you, I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I need a break too. Quick one.
All right. Right, now we have come to the time to notes here. To determine if we should refer any of our 5 candidates to the full commission. So I will open up to vice chair. Well, let's just talk about, no, I want to hear your opinion on what you think.
Maybe I want to hear your opinion first.
Well, I could do that too.
No.
I don't mind.
I'm happy to share my opinion. So the first 2, which were on a previous meeting, you already heard my opinion on those 2 individuals.
Mhm.
On today's meeting, we had 3 very qualified candidates. I was happy and thankful that they applied for the position. I thought but Brandy Jensen. Who I believe we interviewed first. Had quite a few, ticked off quite a few boxes for me. Specifically, just her experience doing the kind of work that this position would require her to do. I think she could actually step into this role pretty quickly and without a lot of training. She answered, I liked a lot of the answers to her questions. And I can go into specifics if you like. So like one of the questions I asked her was, based on your understanding of this position, what is more important, the ability to work as an independent contributor or as a team member? And she highlighted education and accountability of ethics. And as a team member, I felt like she would be, I think this position is a hybrid. It's a team member position because it collaborates with all the entire staff, but it also needs to be work individually and get the opinions written out and handle certain job duties on their own. So it's kind of a hybrid in that regard. I kind of felt with what she's currently doing, I kind of felt that she would not struggle in being successful in this position. So I actually felt out of the three candidates that she was probably, if I had to pick one, it would be her. However, Mr. Davis had quite a few good characteristics as well. Specifically, an answer to the question that I think you asked about, do you work better collaboratively or individually? And he said both. He preferred both, which I think once again goes what I just said earlier, is that you have to work both collaboratively and individually. And he didn't like to be micromanaged. I don't like to be micromanaged. And I think at the beginning, you'll need to be micromanaged just until you figure out what the job is to some degree. But really, this position is a solo position. There's not supervision. So you're not going to be able to be micromanaged. You're not going to have a lot of training. You're going to have to dig into the materials and dig into what the position has done in the past and then talk to the people around you. But I kind of liked his answer on the micromanagement aspect of that because we can't micromanage them. And then another question that I like, or an answer that I like to a question was specifically about a disagreement between commissioners. And he said, it depends on what the disagreement is. And he says that he would stay, if it's a policy issue, he would stay off of that. And I think that he hit that head on. This position doesn't get involved necessarily in policy, so to speak, but it does definitely do legal advice. And he said he would be happy to give his unbiased legal opinion, which I know currently we have that. You do a good job with that. So another thing that I highlighted that I liked that he said, what steps do you take before making a decision on how to solve a problem and why? And I think that this was probably his strongest answer that he gave to any of the questions. Make sure to know what the problem is, extensive research, no cold opinions, write clearly, make sure you understand any either whether it be written or oral, when he communicates that, it's an effective communication, which is really crucial because what we read as commissioners is the opinions. It's we don't talk a lot to this position. We really read what they give us. And then occasionally we'll talk to that position. So if he's an effective writer, I like that. And it sounds like he is and could be in this position. The other candidate, Ms. Greiner, I really liked her experiences. I felt that as far as fitting the position personality wise, I don't know if she was nervous for the interview, but she seemed a little not as assertive as I would have liked for this position. I feel like you need to be fairly assertive in this position when you're dealing with 8 different commissioners and you're dealing with some of the issues that we have to deal with. Although she did give some good answers to some of the questions that we gave as well. So those are my initial thoughts.
Okay. I like you, I mean, Ms. Jensen, I felt like she was the best prepared for this interview, that she had taken time to look at our mission statement and our guiding principles. And I like I too, I think with her experience, you know, she talked about, you know, working with her group. She's somebody who jumps in, does whatever needs to be done. And I think that's important. And she, you know, she looked at enough stuff that she's ready to do more, and besides just, you know, advisory opinions if needed. She's definitely done everything you have to do. Her decision steps, I thought that was, you know, her answer there was very good. And then what I like is that, you know, she has worked with commissioners, so the different personalities, and she's learned over the years how to work with everyone. And I also like the fact that she asked us a lot of questions, like what are our expectations and stuff. And I thought that was good. And she now she's been interested in this job, and now I think, you know, she's been like wanting it, and now she's ready to do it. And it just sounds like I think she wants to do something a little different for a while, you know? Ms. Greiner, her resume was excellent. Her experience there, I mean, so providing opinions and things like that. I think she wants to just, you know, concentrate on one client, which is fine. She likes to, she wants to work in a collaborative situation, to bounce ideas off of people. And this position is one where sometimes you can't, you know? The other thing, I mean, that we talked about, you know, she's given some legal advice, but I would think in her position, she's done more. Her decision-making, those steps were okay. I liked her answer if commissioners disagree, and she says, well, let's hear each other's side. And, you know, so she's definitely like a mediator. And that might be an important thing to have. And stress, diffuse the situation, get the emotion down. I thought that was good. She did have a lot of questions about the job, okay, which I thought was good. And then and Mr. Davis, he's got, you know, some good experience. I thought it was kind of funny when he said about his friends, he said they would tell you that I'm not neat. That makes me wonder if you're an organized person, you know? So I think that, you know, when we asked him some questions, and like when I asked him about what would you change at your job, he's like, what do you mean change? And, you know, and I like to have people come in that are going to be, you know, if you don't have something that you would change on your job when you come in, you're not looking at with fresh eyes. You're just going to be doing the same old stuff, and we get in a rut. The other thing that I found it kind of interesting, and Ms. Greiner had skimmed our mission, that when he was asked about our mission statement, he didn't read it. And whenever you interview for a job, you prep. You know, he was probably least prepared as far as knowing what the commission does, I felt. Okay. I I did like his answer about, writing succinctly and when his decisions, understand the problem, do your research, know the parameters, write clearly and stuff. That's important too. And his disagreement, I answer if two commissioners disagree, that was good. That was a good answer, and wanting to kind of know more. But again, it's kind of not knowing what it is. Stress, didn't know that. And I thought it was kind of interesting when the question was asked, if you can't ask somebody, what do you do? And he said, well, I've never had that situation. And the other two, they've had to work alone. They've had to deal with that situation stuff. So, but again, I think, whoever we move forward, I think seeing their written opinions, their writing, their analytical skills, I think is going to be very important. I mean, Ms. Greiner, she might knock it out of the park in her writing. Okay. And I felt at the end of the interview, she was starting to warm up. She started to relax. But at the beginning, she wasn't relaxing too much. So I would definitely send Ms. Jensen forward. And then we've got the other two that I think after seeing these, I think Mr. Hold up here. There you go. Name here. Thank you. Mr. Perlata, he just did not have enough experience. I think that what he lacked in experience, he had in passion and enthusiasm. Okay. But I think after seeing these others, I think that we have a better choice, and he's got a great future. Mr. Matsuka, he's got a lot of experience, but it's not a lot of government experience really. And I personally would rather take somebody who's had government experience just in that case. So I would be willing to send all three forward just to see what their skill sets are for what we need them to do.
Three from today.
Mhm.
Yeah, just going back to some of the candidates today that we interviewed. One of the questions I asked Ms. Greiner was, do you have any experience in preparing or presenting meeting materials for people at a
True.
public meeting? She said no. But she does do hearings, but not the type of public materials that we're talking about today and the type that we have for this position. Another no question that I got from her was, have you ever argued before a district court
True,
or
true.
Nevada Supreme Court? And that's probably
That's
gonna happen
probably-
at some
yeah.
point. She doesn't have experience doing that, and that concerns me.
I agree. Then,
And I agree with you too. I felt like, and I kind of felt this way last time, if we could get more information than just interviewing them, like having them do those assignments up front, and maybe we can do this the next time we do like more screening tools for this committee, instead of doing what we're doing now. And we can talk about that offline, but I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's unfair to any candidate when you don't have a full picture of everything. We get to interview them, we get to read what they submit to us, but those other little exercises are really key in my mind to be able to ascertain if they're going to be successful in this role. But since we don't get to do that, my suggestion was going to be not necessarily push all the way through the three, but maybe Mr. Davis and Ms. Jensen
Jensen.
through.
I could go along with that. When you reminded me that she didn't have any court experience, that's critical.
I think it is in this position, in this role. And it may, they could be in this position forever and never have that come, but if they have it, they need to be prepared to do that and have the experience
Mhm.
to do that. Because as you know, we've had a case go to the Nevada Supreme Court. And that was a very important case for this commission.
So you want to entertain a motion?
Yeah, so I would move that we, out of the 5 candidates that we interviewed, that we would move forward to the full commission. Brandy Jensen and Chris Davis.
I will second that. Right? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item, public comment. Executive Director Armstrong, are there any members of the public present that wish to make comment, and have you received any email?
There are no members of the public present in person on our Zoom, and we have not received any written public comment for this personnel subcommittee.
Okay, all right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that one. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody.